Explained by the Meier contacts. Cosmology. See also antimatter. See also atoms. See also Big Bang. See also black holes. See also creation, universal consciousness. See also dark energy. See also dark matter. See also gravity, anti-gravity. See also multiverse. See also time travel. Ask its explanations. Part 1.
3rd February 1953 Eru. And to fulfill our mission, we have to neutralize the space-time connection barrier between our and your universes, so that we can achieve a harmonious passage through without damage to ships and universes. Because our homeworld lies in the Tao universe, in the Acon system, in a system foreign to you, Earth humans, of a universe just as foreign to you, of which several surround the universe known to you, on the 7th outer belt. Many of these universes lie in other time planes, and in, for you, expanses of utter foreignness. Our universe is a parallel sister universe to yours, respectively a twin universe, and, calculated according to your concepts, it lies in a similar plane. The difference between your time and ours is only very slight. Made possible through technical developments, an ancient universe barrier was opened again between our universe and your universe that guaranteed us the entrance into your time, after which the knowledge about it, lost many thousands of years ago, was worked out again. Ask its explanations, Part 2. 4th February 1953. The entire existence of all creational universes, world bodies and life forms, etc., can be embedded in a perfect mathematics that works like an infallible machinery and causes life to become or perish. The elementary formulae rest in the mathematically most important numbers 3, 7, and 12. All calculations in these three numbers always and all the time give one and the same result in the equation itself, and the equation is a perfect round that can be calculated infallibly in multiples of 7x7. The entirety of mathematics is based in a closed ring which can be calculated at any time by the numbers 3, 7, 12, and 7x7, since the primordial is itself a perfect roundness, perfect to the smallest degree, a roundness of the relatively perfect in mastery of the becoming and passing away in the creation itself.
Contact Report 010.
The visible universe, with which the human being is concerned, is but a small spot in this wonderful, unending, spiritual intelligence of the creation. Universes like this one are contained in countless thousand millions in the unending spiritual intelligence of the creation. What is visible to the physical eyes of the human being means only a small iota in the endlessness. What is not visible to his or her eyes is unmeasurable, incomprehensible, and unthinkable, confusing and unimaginable to his or her unspiritual human intelligence and comprehension. All the universe, which he or she sees, is but one single space of many, which must be measured by myriads, because there are universes in universes, universes beyond universes, universes beneath universes, universes above universes, and universes outside the universes in this almighty, tremendous, and all-creational spiritual intelligence of the existence creation.
Contact Report 021.
The most diverse planets produce also the most diverse radiations, which are partly absorbed naturally by all material things.
Contact Report 030.
There are currently very few life forms in the universe that are able to travel such long distances, because this is only possible through the refraction and use of hyperspace. But where this was made possible by highly developed technologies, the universe no longer offers any limits. Even space and time no longer form barriers, nor do the barriers between different universes. This journey will lead you to a barrier of this universe.
I am going crazy. You mean we are rushing to a place where our universe touches another?
Certainly.
Man, oh man. Then this will so quickly become a short journey to the end of the universe. A journey into eternity, so to speak.
Your thoughts are wrong, because we do not reach the end of the universe, because such an end does not exist. We merely enter and pass through a barrier of this universe.
That's what I meant. I just expressed myself inappropriately.
Contact Report 031.
What about the blue stars over there? How big are they, and is life possible on them?
They are no bigger than your home world, although this kind of star is normally 5 to 6 times larger than the Earth. They are as inhospitable and hostile to life as any sun, and as the great planets in the Sol system such as Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus. The gravity alone allows no life on these stars, and not even any spiritual life forms are located on them. In 97% of all cases, they are as completely devoid of higher life like your sun and the planets Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus, etc. In the few cases, however, where life exists on such stars, the existing life forms are exceedingly small, where the total size of thermobacteria is usually not exceeded. The gravitational force of such stars would crush larger forms. But of course, this varies from planet to planet or from star to star, while the atmosphere itself plays no role, because different life forms also live in different atmospheres. Not all life forms breathe oxygen like we pure humans do.
Could you therefore explain the difference between stars and planets?
That can be easily and very quickly explained, because planets are solid and not gaseous cosmic bodies which have practically no inherent luminosity, and which receive their light by the conversion of the incoming solar radiation. Stars are gaseous and energy-converting cosmic bodies, which consequently have an inherent luminosity and generate their light from the emanating processes within their own body. Both are inhabitable for life forms. Planets as well as stars, if atmospheric and other conditions permit it, whereby on stars, Re-sp. Suns, as a rule, only thermobacterial or thermobiocell life is possible.
Besides, in the whole universe, there are life forms that look deceptively similar to each other, whereby a person can be mistaken for someone else. You call this doppelganger.
Contact Report 053.
Today I bring back the drawings to you. You should only label them according to my instructions. The round spiral illustrates the creational structure of the whole. It is evident from this that the entire creational power is considered to be the center, but that it forms both the inside and the outside. The powers of the new creations emanating from creation resonate through the interior and exterior and also develop in this form. The arrows pointing inwards and outwards embody this. They should make this process clear. The corresponding 7 levels of development, which are subdivided again into 7x7 mature forms, correspond both to the conditional evolution stages of the life forms and to the energetic forms. So it becomes obvious by the fact that the overall structure takes place in the form of a spiral and is absolutely uniform for all forms of matter, both the fine material and the coarse material. Also, this evolutionary form, which cannot show any other form, is of universal validity. Therefore, if the Earth human chases after other concerns and assumptions, then he or she moves in fundamentally wrong paths and misconceptions, because the entire universal life in every form is creationally directed and is not subject to any degenerations or variations. Like the creational power itself, any other existence has to follow the same paths. However, the Earth human is ignorant and unknowing. Consequently, he or she searches and draws illogical conclusions from sham observations. There are no 7 levels of the SOL system, because all existing levels are all universal. Consequently, no worlds and suns or whole systems have separate levels. So there are truly only 7 all-universal levels, which in their overall structure are however also arranged differently than assumed by the terrestrial human being.
The presentation you have given me from Mr. Rise is thoroughly wrong and corresponds exactly to the earthly human errors.
In order to correct this error, I have used his own representation to better understand the designer, according to which he is able to recognize the truth if he really makes an effort to do so. The attached diagram, made by me according to his own design, shows the true structure of all levels, from the spiritual of origin to the material and relative perfection. He may recognize the individual intermediate values of the different levels from my earlier exposition, so that I do not need to name them another time, and have therefore omitted them in the graphic representation. The universe is the inner and outer body of creation. In its entirety pulsates the universal mind and the universal consciousness and the power of life, of existence in general. This is permeated by everything, and everything is permeated by it, so everything forms a unity in itself. All life and all evolution admitted to it also takes place in this unity itself. So the universe is the inner and outer body of creation at the same time. Everything existing in it is also inner and outer at the same time. But all life springs from this itself, and in it all developmental evolves. So every creation has emerged from inside and outside, develops inside and outside, and perfects itself in the same form in order to enter into the absolute power of the creation as an absolute power inside and outside. The consistency of this fact can be represented schematically with the graphic representation, whereby the outer 2 semicircles record the egg-shaped spiral of creation, in which even everything develops spirally from the absolute power to the absolute power. The connecting lines from the material primary level to the absolute levels of creation embody the permanent connection of the 2 material forms of existence of a gross and subtle nature, which are maintained by willpower at the exit from absolute power until re-entry into absolute power. The same applies to the material intellect will. The different levels are also recognizable from the representation. If my earlier explanations are called in to help, see Contact Report 06, 50 to 999, whereby it can also be recognized that the Earth human is to be classified into the 6th step of the 2nd level of development, which corresponds to a still lower state, and says that these life forms only slowly advance to the frontiers of the recognizable truth, and only attain the most minimal realizations of spiritual values.
Contact Report 054.
Okay, I am supposed to ask you what Askit's people actually call our universe.
Sanan Universum translates from their language. We call it Dern Universe, as you know.
Contact Report 068 in note. This conversation is probably in reference to the painting by Rick Guidas titled Interior View Looking Out Through Large Windows, painted for NASA's Ames Research Center in Mountain View, California, USA. It appeared in the February 1976 issue of Smithsonian Magazine, ISSN 0037-7333, Volume 6, Number 11, pages 62 to 69. Colonies in Space May Turn Out to Be Nice Places to Live, by Ron Chernow, and in an appendix titled Space Colony Illustrations Cylindrical Colonies, to the 1977 U.S. government publication titled Space Settlements. A design study NASA SP413, which can be viewed here. For further information regarding this subject, see also a skeptic's review here.
Sigrid Kinnett sent me something that knocked me off of balance. Here, look, this picture here.
What you have here is a drawing of an inspirational picture transmitted to an illustration painter for the purpose of slowly acquainting the Earth human with things that will cause them trouble in the future. Note: the original German word Nachzeichnung is translated by Deep L translator as tracing or redraw rather than drawing. And there are certain reasons why the image of a universe barrier was used, but I am not allowed to mention them. By the way, this drawing is not very good. The original is masterly. Pay attention to the differences. Our picture shows the center of the barrier as an egg-shaped structure, as it is in reality, while on this bad imitation, the center is circular. Also, the radiations show very blatant differences, as well as the foreground, where in our picture the wobbling, shimmering energy is recognizable, while on the drawing a landscape is represented.
Contact Report 069.
But now something else, namely to do with the center of our galaxy. If I remember correctly, Ascot once told me that this is about 50,000 light-years away from our SOL system, while our science claims that it is only 30,000 light-years. What is true now?
The galaxy center, or the galaxy central sun, is at a distance of 57,000 light-years if SOL is taken as the starting point.
Aha, and what does this central sun consist of? I mean, of what matter?
On the one hand, these are wild particles, gases and electrons, etc., as well as different atoms, which means that the central sun in its outer forms is a seething galactic storm still in disordered form. But in the center itself, it is a black hole, whereby the atoms, etc., constantly split and produce new connections, which separate, in spiral forms, from the outer central areas, and indeed in gigantic masses. These rotate around themselves in an enormous glowing, dividing themselves further, in order to then form themselves into single gigantic clouds and spherical formations, so also develop themselves into sun formations, which develop in whole masses, in agglomerations.
You mean there is never a sun alone?
They often develop in heaps, but not every structure of these species becomes a real sun, because many are too small in the mass to develop as such. Others become, in the course of millions and billions of years, which is not rare since their matter condenses, to very compact formations, suns and planets, whereby the planets themselves will produce and one day carry life. However, the formation of planets does not stop there. It has to be said that the planetary formations that are developing capture many meteors, space matter of all kinds and comets, and thus grow into large formations.
By that you mean a process like it happens in our SOL system with the solar systems Jupiter and Saturn. These planets are actually unsuccessful suns and are only now perhaps developing into real planets by attracting space matter of all kinds, and thereby growing and becoming dense.
Sure.
Okay, and how is such a galaxy center formed at all? Such a central sun from which a galaxy develops, I mean?
This is very simple, namely by the immeasurable agglomerations of neutrinos, particles, gases and electrons drifting everywhere in space, as well as the different atoms, etc., which agglomerate, transform and change, form new processes, heat up tremendously in the course of time and thus condense, and finally, driven by the heat in the cold of space, which acts like a recoil, get into rotation and condense even more.
I can understand that, even if I am not a physicist. These squibblers will deny your explanation anyway because they always want to be smarter. But now a question about the universal central sun and the origin of the matter that is chasing through space. Where does it come from? What is it made of, and what actually is the universal central sun? One cannot see it from the Earth. Where is it?
These are many questions at once, but they are connected. The matter whirling through free space and the actual space matter are the direct condensed product of the central sun of the universe. This, in turn, is the origin of all growing fine material and coarse material matter, which in finer form also includes the gases as well as the electrons, neutrons, neutrinos, and all other elements, etc. The central sun of the universe itself does not correspond to the same substantive form as a central galaxy sun, but rather it still consists of pure spiritual matter or energy, which, however, already creates flake-like condensations, whereby, however, it still corresponds, as said, to pure spiritual nature. That is to say, it still does not show any coarse material manifestations. This spiritual matter has a milky whitish color and is already visible to humans as light, because spiritual matter in this form is light. As with a coarse material galaxy, these spiritual energies also cluster together, form an immeasurable center, transform and condense into gases, electrons and various atoms, etc., and are ejected from the center in order to whirl through free space as primordial matter and space matter and other things, from which the visible and coarse material galaxies ultimately develop. The universal central sun itself is approximately in the middle of the universe, much too far away from the SOL system for it to be observed by the naked eye, or even seen, or even detected by the best technological means, despite the immense power of light. Only with very strong aids can it be seen outside the belt of matter or the material universe as a fine, milky, central band mass, which, however, is still very distant from earthly astronomical science. Thus they have never succeeded in recognizing the central sun. As a band, the universal central galaxy is recognizable outside the material belt of the universe, because from any point outside the material universe, it is also seen sideways like your own galaxy, the Milky Way, as you call it. So earthly astronomical science has never proved that the central sun or the central galaxy exists. From the Earth, the central galaxy does not appear like an immeasurable great lightning bolt, which continues to expand, as it is claimed, whereby it is also assumed that this lightning bolt is equivalent to the Big Bang effect, which is nonsense, of course, because the noticeable lightning appearance has nothing to do with it, because in reality, it is the flashing luminosity of the transformation belt through which the fine matter is formed into the coarse matter.
Fantastic, but where does this spiritual matter or energy and these flakes of light come from, or how you call them?
Therefore, the flakes of light, as you just said, are pure condensed spirit energies, starting from the creation, originating from its will-created ideas.
Contact Report 089.
Can you tell me how old our current universe is?
The present universe exists in its 46th trillion, 46,000 year.
You are complicated. You think our present universe is about 46 trillion, 46,000 years old if we calculate it from the last slumber, right?
Sure, that is what I said.
How often was our universe already material? How often was our universe already present in the same material form as it is this time?
Our universe is still a very young one, and since the beginning of this universal creation, and since its self-creation, this universe is the first of this present material form. Prior to the creation of this universe, The creation of this universe slumbered in the sevenal great time slumber into which it had spiraled after the emergence and passing away of the first universe from its own ideation, which was only a realm with boundaries without solid material bodies, as is the case in the present material belt of the universe.
Then again, about the age of our present universe. It is 46,046,000 years old and expanding. This number of years corresponds to about 1/6 of a great age, somewhat inaccurately. But it is a rough estimate, because a great age comprises 311,000 and 40,000 years. This means, then, that we are in the second act of creation in our universe, and have only completed 46,046,000 years of this second act of creation, or have completed the universe, and have 265,000 40,000 years left to exist before the completion of the act, with the contraction or backslide beginning after 155.502 trillion, 155,502,000 years.
Sure, this is calculated very precisely.
Well, then we can calculate how old our creation is in general, since it's self-creation by the creation's idea, whereby I mean the whole universe, and not simply the material part of the universe, the belt of matter, which we here on Earth simply erroneously call universe, and mean that this is the whole universe. So that is 46,046,000 years to the present time. Then we have the slumber period of 311,000 and 40,000 years, just as long of a wake period before, and then again a slumber time, so the creation time, right? So there are 3 times 301,000 40,000 years.
No, you are mistaken.
How? Wait. Oh, so yes, that is how it is. 3x 311 thus 40,000 years. Plus 46,046,000 years. Then wait a minute. Yes, that makes... Wait, yes, it should be true. 979,120,000 years. Is it so?
Sure, I could not calculate that as fast as you could.
Contact report 097.
Do you know what these T-Mars ask its people call our universe?
They call it Dern Universe.
And what do you call it?
Our universe is also called Dern Universe.
That is how we talk about the Dern universe in the future.
Contact report 826.
In the beginning there was the so-called Big Bang, whereby our creation, that is to say, our universe, came into being from an infinitely tiny point, whereby I have endeavored to describe the preliminary process up to that point in my book, Ursprung. Our creation, which is the sevenfold universe in 7 different dimensions, but which does not form the cosmos, is for the human beings of the Earth, and in particular for the cosmologists, that is to say, astronomers, simply the cosmos. But the truth is that the cosmos is nothing other than the material belt, whereby space has always existed, precisely since the creation, that is to say, the universe has existed. This, if I may say so, hovers timelessly in the endless duration in the nihilo, that is to say, in the absolute nothing, or nothing space, if I am to define this in earthly terms, so that we understand what is meant. If the universe is considered, that is to say, the creation, then for us only that, and the dimension in which we live, is to be seen, while, however, 6 further and other dimensions exist alongside it. In addition, our universe has 7 belts, namely 6 space belts that consist of gaseous matter, while the material belt is generally called the cosmos by astronomers and earthlings. 3 of the gaseous belts are located in front of the material belt, and 3 more are located behind, which, however, enclose the material belt as a whole, whereby it already becomes clear that the material belt, that is to say the cosmos, floats or exists as the 4th belt between the 6 others in the middle. Our astronomers, etc., however, have since time immemorial made a completely false picture of the whole, just as they are not to be taught about reality and its truth, as is unfortunately also the case in every respect with the majority of Earthlings. The universe is also not infinitely large, and it has not always been there, as certain scientists, etc., assume, because its existence came into being and will also have an end again, but completely differently than earthly astronomers, etc., imagine. That a change, that is to say a constant renewal of the galaxies and the universe, takes place every 49,049,000 years is obviously also unknown to our astronomers. That there are galaxies up to 12 times bigger than the Milky Way, such huge spiral galaxies that they seem to be infinite. The creation consists of 7 universes and consequently has different 7 dimensions, which are, however, completely separated from each other, which in turn have in themselves an infinite number of dimensions of the past and the future.
Contact Report 833.
But shall I say what I was asked? Namely, how the process was formed by the creation, and by its action the material belt, and then the suns, after which the solar systems with the planets were formed. Svath actually said that I should keep quiet about this because astronomy was still far from being knowledgeable enough to understand the whole thing. On the contrary, however, I have been asked several times if I may say something in this regard.
You are certainly allowed to explain something about that in this day and age because...
Then I can try to explain it. So, it is probably to begin with that something cloud-like was formed. Something in the manner of something oval-shaped and not exactly round, like an upset egg. The whole thing was like colored billowing and transparent, which expanded over a long period of time and then spread out like an explosion and formed into 7 belts, which however were 7-fold in themselves, and each a different dimension. In each of the 7 forms, which I simply call universes for the sake of understanding, a new iridescent colored billowing mass was formed as the 4th belt, which then expanded again like an explosion and produced further smaller billowing, faintly oval and shimmering colored cloud-like formations. Svath explained that these contained the tiniest molecules to which atoms attached themselves, whereby the formations, which in the first sequence raged wildly, but in the course of time formed together, from which finally one formation emerged, or 2 or even more luminous formations. In the course of time, which we human beings probably define as billions of years, because we created the concept of time, these formed into hot shapes, miniature suns so to speak, which then grew in the course of time and became bigger and bigger. Also, if I may say so, double molecule clouds like multiple molecule clouds came into being, from which several or many solar formations emerged, just as there were individual formations that produced suns 1,000 times larger than our sun is. Now, finally, it happened again that, like an explosion, the colorful, iridescent and billowing, almost egg-shaped shells were torn apart, and the large and hot formations became free and floated around in free space. In the course of time, other forms of matter gradually accumulated in the area of attraction of these formations, which had come into being in similar manner, but which did not develop as hot suns. I will refer to these smaller formations as matter or asteroid urns in order to perhaps make it easier to understand what can be imagined by this. From these, together with the suns, systems were formed over the course of time, solar systems, which joined together to form huge clusters, star clusters and star streets, such as the Milky Way, which ultimately resulted in the cosmos, that is to say, the material belt. That is what actually has to be explained.
Contact Report 836.
Therefore, he or she, the earthling, the human being, also does not know that actually the all-embracing being depends on swinging waves, as also on sounds resulting from them. The sun, as the authoritative celestial body of the system, orders the distance of planets away from it in its system area by means of swinging waves and sounds. Something that is obviously not yet known to the great science of astronomy, because at least I have never heard of it. But it is the case, as I learned from Svath and was able to sense and hear through his apparatus, that every system satellite actually orbits around the Sun with a very specific swinging wave, that is to say vibration. This swinging wave also corresponds to a very specific wavelength as well as an impulse, which in turn produces a special sound.
Contact Report 838.
In every other of the seven-dimensional continuums of creation, there are the same compositions of the forms of matter as here in our space-time continuum.
Contact Report 841.
Quantum technology is actually based on the fact that it can be used, for example, to explain the basic behavior of energy and matter in the atomic and subatomic range. Quantum technology is actually the basis of so-called modern physics, which is actually concerned with creation energy, but which is still erroneously called spirit. This is probably from a religious point of view, because the Earthling is a believer in religion. In the level of creation energy, that is to say the quantum level, as it can also be called, which for the time being is probably the last realization for physics, is actually the level of the original substance of matter. This level, which precedes matter, has no measurable particles for material technology, and likewise no waves, because it already reaches the area of the outer levels of creation energy, which can no longer be measured with gross material apparatus. This energy level is distributed in the entire space of creation, that is to say in the entirety of all 7 universes, each of which has a different dimension and exists within one another. So we can speak of a quantum field that is in itself superluminously attuned to all forms of creation energy, thus permeating all 7 dimensions of the 7 universes in creation space. This field is actually egg-shaped, the creation with all its 7 dimensions, which are interwoven and independent of each other, is, roughly speaking, egg-shaped. The creation, I will explain, is a gigantic all-consciousness, which is not only single universal, but sevenfold universal and thus all creative, once arising from the absolute absolutum, which developed via the primordial absolutum, then the creation absolutum, super absolutum, and further via the sohar absolutum, then the being absolutum, and finally found its original origin in the Nihilo, the absolute nothing sea book, Billy. Primordial origin of all existence. Unfortunately, I cannot say much about all that is commonplace in earthly physics, because my knowledge of physical moments only relates to a general knowledge that I learned from Svath and at school. But the truth is, nevertheless, the whole of creation has nothing to do with the limited cosmos, which alone comprises only the 4th belt of the 7-fold belts of the universe, which again is only one part of the 7-fold creation, which in itself contains 7 universes, each of which exists in a different dimension within the other. The Nihilo itself is the unrevealing, the formless, unfathomable and unspeakable, and the essence of the primal ground of all existence, from which alone everything has emerged.
Contact Report 849.
We Pleiaren, as well as our federates as a whole, are not at home in this time structure, and thus not in this universe of creation, but are displaced in space, that is to say, dimension and time, in another of the 7 universes of creation. This, as well as others from our lineage, who, however, come from a universe that is to say, dimensional structure of the twin sister creation, come here to Earth, as do we Pleiaren.
Contact Report 852.
Furthermore, through the information records in the sphere, we became aware that at the time, 267 million years ago, it was discovered that this creation corresponded to a twin creation, as well as that a way was found to enter the sister creation, the Dajansini Arglasser Neuralen Respi, the second-born creation, the twin creation. Consequently, 2 of our distant ancestral peoples emigrated to the sister creation and settled there. Note refers to the Dal universe,
Contact Report 860.
The creation contains within itself 7 universes, each of which has a different present dimension, whereby each of these universes has its own material belt, that is to say, cosmos. Even the infinitely many creations that float in the nothingness space of the nihilo, which is inconceivable to the human beings, as also the Dal sister universe of our universe, like ours of the same kind, have a cosmos, that is to say, material belt, that is constantly changing and also inexorably expanding. However, all higher and more developed forms of creation, which will also be our creation one day, still have 7 universes with 7 levels, that is to say, dimensions each, but no longer a material belt, but special levels of development. In this form, the materialless, that is to say, cosmos, less creation universes exist and develop in timeless duration up to the absolute absolutum, then further over all other absolutum forms, that is to say, absolutum universes, that is to say, absolutum creations, that is to say, absolutum levels up to the scene absolutum. From the lowest level up to the highest, to the scene level, as I listed here. Sein absolutum, sohar absolutum, super absolutum, creation absolutum, central absolutum, ur absolutum, absolute absolutum. From the absolutum emerge the first 49 simple creations, which have 7 belts as the lowest forms of creation, one of which corresponds to the material belt, that is to say, the cosmos, which is generally known to human beings as the visible universe with all its galaxies, nebulae, comets, meteors, suns, planets and moons, etc.
Contact Report 861.
Creation contains 7 universes, each of which has 1,000 different dimensions, which can also be visited and traveled to by means of certain techniques, and can therefore be changed from one dimension to another. So we have the comprehensive certainty that the foreigners know nothing about our Ankar universe, as that creation contains and exhibits 7 independent universes in itself, which are differently dimensioned than the innumerable dimensions of this Dern universe.
Contact Report 862.
Yet this is not only the case on Earth, but also with every species of human being in the other 6 universes of creation, and on the inhabited worlds, as also with all life forms which are of human-like genus and species.